Hello, and welcome to the presentation of my design portfolio. I'm James Hill. Over my career, I've designed, as an individual or as part of a team, a great deal of automation. Here's an overview of some of it, so you can get a feel for who I am and what I can do. At the bottom of the slide, you see one of my favorite sayings: you don't know what you don't know until you know what you don't know. Hopefully, after this presentation is over, you know a lot more about my capabilities and who I am. Here's the agenda of what we'll be covering in the presentation. Just a quick overview. What I bring to the team, some quick facts, a couple of my early career projects, the manufacturing and engineering position I held at L&L Products, and then my last position at RedViking Engineering, Predictive Index, which is a personality profile, education and training kind of speaks for itself, and then a little bit about me personally so you can get to know me. Here's what I bring to the team. I'm not going to cover each and every one of these bullet points, but there are a few that I'm quite passionate about. Ownership of work being one of them. I'm responsible and I follow through. I take great pride in my work. Also, I am very passionate about CAD and design standards. I firmly believe that they put the engineering department all pointing in the same direction, so the quality and quantity of work comes out the same. And next, I'd like to cover brainstorming, because I really love to brainstorm. I love either one-on-one or part of a team, developing new ideas, throwing ideas around on a whiteboard till you come up with the best one. As far as design capabilities, there's quite a list there. I have diverse experience, and one of my favorite things is to hand sketch and draw isometrics before you get into CAD. So all the ideas are fleshed out. Pretty much everybody knows the direction of what your design will be taking, and we move forward from there. It saves a lot of time in CAD hours to flesh that out in the beginning. Some quick facts. My father was an engineer at General Motors most all his life. He worked on the lunar vehicle that the astronauts drove on the moon and is still on the moon. I loved that fact when I was a kid. I love to find out how things work since I was a kid also, taking things apart and mostly always putting them back together. I started working when I was 15 years old on a drafting board at Cargill Detroit Corporation, the largest single independent conveyor company in North America at the time. I later transitioned into mechanical, detailing, and layout and design. I designed my first machine when I was 17 years old, was sent to Kokomo, Indiana for approvals with the customer. I later transferred to the controls department and worked as a controls engineer, and then also worked as a controls engineer at several other companies. I became engineering manager at Dominion over both the mechanical and controls department, and managed 26 guys at one time. So this is the non-contact alignment machine that I developed at Dominion Tool and Die. It's now Dominion Technologies. It aligns the vehicle with a set of lasers. The biggest hurdle we had to overcome here is mechanically how to support the vehicle without inducing forces that would throw off the alignment. We solved that after a lot of research and found that floating the vehicle on air bearings worked perfectly for the application. Here is a Pratt Whitney deburring cell. It's an isometric, which is hand-drawn. I know that's hard for you to believe in today's CAD world, but this isometric was hand-drawn by me. It took me about 3 weeks to do. All the text was done with a label maker. I'm pretty proud of that. It's pretty amazing, don't you think? Here's an example of some of the sketching that I do. This is for a wheelchair interlock that I did as a contract basis to Q-Strength down in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, to latch a wheelchair into place in a vehicle. I worked in manufacturing and engineering at L&L Products for 11 years. Pretty much everything there we developed ourselves. Tooling, special machines. They're fabricated by our tool room and assembled by our maintenance department. If you designed it, you lived with it the whole while it was in production, cradle to grave. All while you were doing that, you're also supporting production needs and requirements. At L&L, I was a member of the safety committee and chaired the ergonomics subcommittee, working to ensure a safe environment for all the workers. Inline pushpin development was one of the two projects impacted not only production but also people. It was integrating the pushpin assembly process into the die cut to avoid secondary assembly. Originally, seals were die cut and then sent to have pins inserted later. The new process put the pin guns on the die, inserting pins as the seal progressed out of the die. Operators would pack them for shipping right from the extrusion area. Seal knockout and stacking. This is the second project I'd like to present. It goes right in hand with my involvement in the ergonomics committee. This article appeared in the L&L newsletter, written by me. So, picture a 12-inch wide strip of rubber being fed through a press die. The seals are cut and they stay in the offall, which is the scrap around the part. That gets recycled later. Operators would use their hands to push these out, sometimes at a production rate of up to 60 per minute. The new process, the parts are pushed out either as they are cut or after a couple of progressions by a spring-loaded plunger in the shape of the part. They are stacked right onto a conveyor. The operator can program how many parts they want in a stack, and then they pack them directly into a box. Unfortunately, all good things must come to an end, and L&L went from 800 employees to 300 during the Great Recession. I was one of the last engineers to lose my position. Afterwards, unable to find a job, I contracted engineering work, even contracting all the die design from L&L products. Some friends of mine had gone over to RedViking Engineering, and they called me to work on a special project for them. After about 6 months, the company asked to hire me directly. At RedViking, I worked on various automotive assembly and test equipment, exhaust gauges, worked as part of a team that increased Pratt & Whitney aircraft turbine engine production from 1 unit a week to 1 unit per shift. I won the RedViking President's Award for my dedication to getting the job done. And I was part of the mechanical steering committee to develop mechanical design standards and also SolidWorks standards to move the entire engineering department in one direction. The project that I was called over to RedViking to work on was for Amcor Bottling. They were looking for a new process to form their plastic bottles. Plastic bottles are currently formed using a injection molded preform that is heated and then hot air is blown into the mold, forming the bottle. The bottle is then shipped to the end user. So this shipping is now shipping empty bottles, which is basically shipping a lot of air. I was responsible for the SolidWorks design and detail, customer and project manager interface, build, and debug support on this project. So the new process was to form the bottle with the fill liquid. This required the design that would flow the liquid fast enough to form the bottle before the preform cooled, and also to seal the bottle from the ensuing hydraulic pressure. A video of the process is available, and I have a link to it down below in the YouTube description area. Amcor loved the nozzle. It worked fabulously. They gave us additional POs for additional concept nozzles and also for a robot cell to recreate the entire process. Amcor has since spun off the entire process into another division and licensed it to their customers, creating a multi-million-dollar. Here's a picture of the nozzle with the cross-section. I'm not going to go into the guts of it here, but if you're interested, please contact me. My contact information is in this presentation and the YouTube description area below. I look forward to hearing from you and discussing this. Another project I worked at RedViking was for a Boeing CNC drill jig. Boeing's looking for a replacement to their current drill jig that was not accurate and repeatable. They wanted a repeatability of 4/10,000ths of an inch from hole to hole, with the entire drill jig weighing less than 100 pounds. I was responsible for complete design of the unit in SolidWorks with translation to AutoCAD, interface with the customers, project management, and controls designers. There's a video of the unit. There's a link to it below in the YouTube area. Feel free to look through it. Success of this unit led to additional purchase orders with Boeing. The last project I worked at RedViking Technical Engineering Center in Raleigh before they closed it was a vibration test cell for Borg Warner. This included 2 machines, robot, reject and pack out conveyor loops. There's an article about the cell. There's a link in the YouTube area below. There's a video also there that RedViking created. Challenges with the cell included mostly because the customer wasn't designing the transfer case that we were testing. This involved a 3-month hold while it was redesigned. Also, there were changes of management both at Borg Warner and internally for the project. I was responsible for overseeing the engineering on the entire cell, interface with customers, and all other involved with the equipment design. Here is an overview of the line you just saw in the previous slide. The part goes from the assembly conveyor to one of the 2 test stands, whichever one is available. It first unloads the tested part, then loads the part ready for test. The tested part is put on a pack-out conveyor if it's passed, or the reject pallet if it needs repair. You'll see a better description of this in the article from the previous slide and also the video. Here's the guts of the test machine, most of which I can't show on the web as it's proprietary. I can talk about to you directly if you're interested. Again, please contact me. I'd be happy to discuss it with you. All of what is shown was covered in the video that was in a previous slide. Predictive Index is a personality assessment. This is a portion of it. There are links below if you want to read the entire assessment. I think it's amazing how they can generate this, and it feels a pretty accurate summary of me. And although I'm unassuming typically, this presentation is to highlight my capabilities, so I want to point out a few things. I'm quick to connect with people. I'm open and sharing of myself, my knowledge, willing to help, come up with ideas. I communicate well. I respond to emails and voicemails promptly. I'm collaborative, working with others. I really love team cohesion, dynamics, and an interpersonal relationship at work. I'm an effective communicator. I tend to be able to stimulate and motivate others. I'm still being responsive to people's needs and concerns. I'm very approachable. I've been told I'm a great teacher. And also, although this says I avoid risk, I tend to love new technology and love to implement new technology into designs on a calculated risk. Always, if I feel that there is any risk involved, I like to have a plan B or C in my pocket in case something goes wrong. Education and training. Originally, my direction was an electrical engineering degree at Oakland Community College. I later changed that to a mechanically oriented degree. I've taken a lot of courses through my career. I've been fortunate enough to advance through training. This pretty much speaks for itself. Here's the most important certificate I ever received. When I worked at L&L Products, I occasionally worked Saturdays. The plant was usually not running production. It was quiet, so I could get a lot of design work done. My kids would ask to come with me, especially in the summertime if it included a motorcycle ride. Either one of them would sit quietly and draw. Matthew made this for me one day while I was at work, and you just gotta love this. Here's a little bit more about me personally. I've run a couple marathons, science fiction buff my whole life. As a kid, I wrote to NASA, wanted to be the first boy in space. That's our dog, Olive. It's a Havanese. That's me in 4th grade. I was a lot cuter when I was younger. That's probably about the time that I wrote to NASA. I love to play poker. I've had a royal flush once. And this is my family out to a Carolina Hurricanes hockey game. Here's some artwork that I did while at L&L Products. We used to have a lot of fun there. Work hard, play hard. Here's a caricature I did of Bob and Jean, replacing them in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure for a 50th anniversary party. I also designed a mural for the outside of the cafeteria that later one of the production workers' daughters who was in art school painted to give her some extra money for school. That's a cover to a cookbook for Alamo Products. It was a fundraising sale. And if you think some of these are great, you should see some of the sketches I do for mechanical design. From concept to reality. Just like designing mechanical devices and automation, you see it come to reality. Here I designed a mascot for the Clinton Township Parks and Recreation. It came to life, and then they put me and my family on the cover of the magazine. Questions or comments? Maybe you just want to discuss some of the things I've done or my teams have designed. Contact me by mail or by phone. I'd love to talk to you about my accomplishments and what I can do for you and your company.